Y'all, when a man who spent decades helping Democrats win the White House sits down and tells the whole country that his own party has lost its ever-loving mind, you better believe that is not something you scroll past on your phone. That is a 5-alarm fire in the middle of a house that is already full of smoke. And that is exactly what happened this week. Except the story is even wilder than just one Democrat ringing the alarm bell. Because at the exact same moment that one of the smartest political minds the Democrat Party ever produced was publishing a piece warning that progressives are steering the whole operation off a cliff, the Michigan Senate primary just turned into the clearest proof he has ever been more right about anything in his life. So here is where we start. Doug Shonne spent over 40 years working as a pollster and political consultant. He was in the room with Bill Clinton. He helped shape the strategy that got Clinton reelected. And he just wrote something that ought to make every card-carrying Democrat in this country go real quiet and stare at the ceiling for a minute. He said that when he was working for Clinton, the party understood something real simple. If you want to win, you have to balance the budget, secure the border, be tough on crime, and actually talk to the middle of the country like they matter. That was not a radical idea. That was just common sense dressed up in a suit. And the party that used to live by that understanding has now drifted so far from it that even Obama, the man they practically built a golden statue of, would be considered a right-winger by today's progressive standards. Think about that. The same Barack Obama that the left still treats like a patron saint. Shonne points out that Obama started his career publicly opposed to same-sex marriage and skeptical of identity-based politics. Today, that same Obama would get primaried out of his own party before he ever made it to a general election. That right there tells you more about how far this drift has gone than any poll ever could. Now, here is where this gets genuinely spectacular. While Shonne is publishing his warning, a Senate candidate in Michigan named Abdul El Sayed just announced he is going to campaign with a man named Hassan Piker. Now, if you do not know who Hassan Piker is, I need you to pay very close attention here because this is important. He is a Twitch streamer with 3.1 million followers who describes himself, in his own words, as a Marxist. He has called religious Jewish people inbred. He said that Hamas is, and I am directly quoting what he has said publicly, 1,000 times better than Israel. He voiced support for Hezbollah. And back in 2019, he said, on a live stream, that America deserved the September 11 attacks. Now, he has since tried to walk that last one back, but you do not accidentally say something like that. Words like that come from somewhere real deep inside a person. And El Sayed, a man running for United States Senate in one of the most important swing states in the country, looked at all of that history and said, yep, I want to be seen on a stage with this fella. 2 rallies. April 7th. He did not cancel them. And here's the part that tells you the Democrat Party is having a genuine identity crisis right now. When moderate House members like Representative Brad Schneider called Piker an unapologetic anti-Semite and told the party to distance itself, Piker went on social media and fired back, calling Schneider an AIPAC dog. In all lowercase, no punctuation, just raw contempt for a sitting member of Congress who disagreed with him. And then progressives like Ro Khanna, who is already positioning himself as a possible 2028 presidential contender, went on record saying he is proud to have appeared on Piker's platform. Proud. Not complicated, not conflicted, proud. That is where the ideological fault line is now drawn inside that party, and the moderates are losing the argument even when logic is entirely on their side. Now, what makes the Shonne warning land so hard is the specific context he is working in. Third Way, a centrist Democrat think tank, just sent El Sayed a letter saying associating with Piker is both morally wrong and strategically self-defeating. 2 different think tanks studying competitive races have reached the same conclusion, that moderate Democrats outperform progressive ones in the places that actually determine who controls Congress. The data is not close. The data is clear. And the party keeps ignoring it anyway, because the loudest voices right now are not the ones with the best track record. They are the ones with the biggest social media followings. That distinction matters enormously, and it is exactly what Shonne is trying to get his own people to understand before November gets here and the bill comes due. Here's what strikes me as something nobody is quite saying out loud yet. The Democrat Party is now caught in a trap of its own making. On one side, they desperately need online energy and reach to compete in a media environment that has shifted away from traditional news toward podcasts and streamers. They said for years they needed their own version of Joe Rogan. They kept asking out loud where their version of that was. Well, Piker has over 3 million subscribers on Twitch alone. He talks to young men for hours every day the same way AM radio used to. He is exactly what they said they needed. Except the things he actually believes are so far outside where most of America lives that having him on your side is like finding a prize longhorn only to discover it cannot be taken anywhere near the public. The energy is real. The cost of association is also real. And the party cannot figure out which one outweighs the other, which tells you the party does not have a North Star anymore. They are navigating by vibes. Shonne also pointed out something that should alarm anybody who cares about what the Democrat Party looks like on the national stage. When the United States Senate recently voted on a proposal to keep biological males out of women's sports, every single Democrat senator who was present voted against it. Every single one. Now set aside what you personally think about that issue for just a second and think about it purely from a strategic standpoint. That is not a popular position in a general election. That is not even a popular position among many registered Democrats. But the party voted as a unified bloc against it anyway, because the pressure from the progressive wing to fall in line is now stronger than the instinct to actually win in November. When your own strategists are waving red flags and the people in the seats keep marching in a different direction, you do not have a communication problem. You have a who is actually in charge problem. And here's what makes all of this matter beyond just Democrat internal drama. The 2026 midterms are coming. Every single seat in the House and a third of the Senate is up. The Republican majority in both chambers is a real thing that matters for what gets done for the next 2 years. And what you are watching right now is the other side of that equation figuring out whether to run as what they actually are or pretend to be something more moderate until the votes are counted. And the answer they are currently landing on is that they cannot even agree on that question among themselves. A party that cannot decide whether to campaign alongside a self-described Marxist who said America deserved the worst attack on American soil in modern history is not a party that has figured out what it believes. It is a party having an argument about its own soul in public, with everybody watching, while the clock is ticking toward the most consequential midterm in a generation. Shonne put it plainly. You cannot paper over this kind of divide by just running against the other side forever. At some point, you have to stand for something specific enough that people know what they are voting for. And right now, the Democrat Party cannot answer that question without half the room getting up and leaving. That right there is the diagnosis. The treatment is something they are going to have to figure out themselves. But every day they spend arguing about whether Hassan Piker is an asset or a liability is a day they are not talking to the middle of this country about anything that actually affects how people live their lives. And that silence has a cost. It always does.